What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of our Team Sky Career Mode, where today we will be finishing the Giro D'Italia. And just in case you missed last episode, here is a refresher on what's going on. We are currently in the pink jersey with Santiago Buitrago by 2 seconds, and it's 12 seconds back to Tadej Pogacar, who hasn't been our biggest competition in the most recent stages. It has been Enric Mas, so we're going to have to watch out for him if we're going to try and take the Maglia Rosa home. And in points, we're not really going for it. Jasper Philipsen in the lead. Mountains, again, not really going for it. We're focusing all of our effort on the pink jersey now. And young riders, Santiago Buitrago up by 7.5 minutes over Tom Gloag, our former rider. And in the team category, we are ahead of Ineos Grenadiers by 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So still a lot to race for here in the last week of the Giro. And we are going to start here with stage 15, a 140.8 kilometer hill stage from Grado to Gorizia. And this doesn't look like it's going to shake up the GC too much. We'll have to make sure Santiago Buitrago is around Ciccone, Enric Mas, Tadej Pogacar, just to keep him in pink for this stage. But this is one we can look to attack with Ben Healy or Mark Hirschi there at the end. Even Connor Swift could have his say when this is all said and done. So we're just going to get right into it. And here with 11.5K to go, the front group still has a minute over the rest of the field. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to pull them back unless this last tiny little hill is going to be enough elevation to do it. But I, for one, do not have a ton of confidence. It's Antonio Tiberi pulling in the peloton up to this last little hill. We're really going to try and make a move with Mark Hirschi over the top as Joao Almeida decides he wants to have a go. Tiberi's going to have to turn up the pressure just slightly to make sure he doesn't get too far ahead of us. That front group still has 1:15, and it's not looking likely still that we're going to pull that back, as with about 5K left to go, we're going to pop the energy gel on just about everyone as we start this last little climb. We're going to set Antonio Tiberi up to 92 and really put the pressure on the rest of the riders in this peloton. We're going to crank it up to 95 actually. Joao Almeida looking like he's in a pretty bad spot as Antonio Tiberi starts his sprint, and it's going to be Mark Hirschi to start his with about 1.5 left. Santiago Buitrago also going, and Jan Christen. And we actually have a gap. We have a gap to the rest of the group. The peloton about 29 seconds behind us. Antonio Tiberi is going to come across the line in 9th place. And Connor Swift, Jan Christen in 14th. It doesn't look, however, like there's that big of a gap. We probably should have sagged off with Swift, Watson, and Christen, but who knows, maybe we did get a couple seconds there. And as we can see, we did get about 10 seconds. We're 11 seconds over Enric Mas now, 12 over Tadej Pogacar, and Giulio Ciccone has fallen to 30 seconds behind. So a little bit of breathing room going into the mountains. And we will move on to stage 16. And this one looks like it's going to separate the men from the boys. It's a 213 kilometer mountain stage from Sacile to Cortina d'Ampezzo. Sorry. And it has a nice downhill finish, so if we can attack over that last mountain, I do like our chances to win the stage, but it's all about getting to the top of that last mountain in the lead. Santiago Buitrago, as we've seen, isn't the strongest rider in the mountains. We have been fortunate to get the pink jersey, but we're just going to try and stick with Enric Mas, stick with Tadej Pogacar as far as we can, and hopefully have enough to attack over that last mountain. And we are here with just over 66K left to go, starting the Passo Pordoi climb, and the pace today has been brutal. That is thanks to Connor Swift, Davide Piganzoli. But man, everybody is suffering. Enric Mas looking okay. Tade also looking like he's in a decent spot, but Santiago Buitrago, Mark Hirschi's stamina looking just fine. Connor Swift still putting the pressure down. Enric Mas looking like his legs are feeling good. He could be ready for an attack soon. We still have 8.9 kilometers to go to the top of the climb. What is Ben Healy doing? Using all of his energy to get up next to Connor Swift. I assume he'll take over the pacemaking next. But right now, our biggest rivals, even GC Sepp Kuss back here, they look like they're in a strong spot, and we might be suffering a little bit more than they are. We could slow down the pace, but I think our best option is to try and blow up everybody around us in the earlier mountains, maybe push the pace a little harder than they're used to. And with 1K to go until the top of this Paso Pordoi climb, we have done a pretty good job of thinning out the group. Rojas looking to make a move, or maybe just to get the points, not too sure. But we are coming over the top in first. We have our 3 strongest mountain riders left. Jan Kristen, unfortunately, is a casualty of the high pace. But as long as we stick with the other favorites, I think we have a pretty good shot of coming over that last mountain in the lead. And here with 27K left, we are about to start the last climb, the Paso Giao. It is a 10.1 kilometer climb at 9.1%. Alex Vlasov has made an attack, but we didn't chase it down for obvious reasons. Jan Kristen has basically blown up, and I don't see any of the other favorites. Tade sitting right there. He's actually in a pretty decent place to strike, as we're just trying to stick with him until we get a little closer to the end. And it looks like the pace is outgrowing us a tiny bit. Vlasov pulled back, reined in by Pipo Gana, who is setting down a blistering pace. We still have 7.5K to go to get to the top of this mountain. I don't see Tade up here at all. Jay Vine working for him, but we are still in a pretty decent spot stamina-wise. We do need water on all 3 of our riders, but we're going to have to wait until the downhill section for that and hope we can come over the top with a little bit of stamina. We're going to slow down our pace to 75. Everything right now is about Santiago Buitrago, keeping him in the pink jersey. Only 1:20 to the group in front of us with still 5.7K to go. I don't know if this pace is sustainable for the rest of the climb, as Jay Vine actually ramps it up, and the peloton actually caught by the group behind us. So maybe we are in a dire spot right now. We just don't know it yet. With 4.5K to go, still no Tade. There's Enric Mas, but we're going to have to keep up with him. He is our #1 threat right now. It looks like he is trying to get his legs moving, and there's the attack from Enric Mas. We're going to set our pace to 85 and try and stick on to the back of this move, but he is just attacking. We can't follow it just yet. It looks like we have stuck onto the back. We're going to set our pace to 75. I think we can nurse that almost to the top. No, we're going to have to set it down to 70. And hopefully Enric Mas drops off of the back with this pace. That's very unlikely, but Antonio Tiberi's time is almost up. Mark Hirschi not in a great spot either. But we're going to use up the last bit of energy that Antonio Tiberi has, and we're going to get Mark Hirschi on the front. Santiago Buitrago close on his wheel, as Mark Hirschi looking like he's going to bring Santiago Buitrago to the front just in time for him to go 99 over the top, and timing it just right with our energy usage. That red bar depletes as soon as we get over the top of the mountain, and now it's all on Santiago Buitrago's downhill stat. There's a slight flat in the middle of the stage, or in the middle of this downhill, and our biggest rivals are close to us, so we're gonna go ahead, sit up, try and recover a bit more on this downhill and see if we can attack on that flat. I think it's really our only chance. Mark Hirschi actually with Santiago Buitrago here in the group. Here she can actually go back and get the water and bring it up to Santi as we are about to hit the flat section. We're going to pop our energy gels. Buitrago's going to follow Hirschi. And Hirschi can start the pacing already. He's going to go at 85. He has an incredible downhill stat, so we could be looking at a stage win here for him. But right now, we just want Santiago Buitrago on his wheel. Mark Hirschi is going to launch his attack, trying to get rid of Rubio. But that was about as perfectly timed as it could be. Let's see if Mark Hirschi can get down just ahead of this front group. Looks like Balcamalama is going to be the one to try and chase him back. No, they're just letting him go. As we will probably, I say probably, but I think we will keep our pink jersey lead as long as Mark Hirschi gets those bonus seconds. And it is going to be Mark Hirschi coming across the line ahead by 30 seconds, taking stage 16 of the Giro D'Italia. And Santiago Buitrago going to finish with the group behind. Tadej Pogacar does finish second, so he will get some bonus seconds. But I don't think it's going to be enough to unseat us as the leader of the race. And there we see Mark Hirschi on top of the podium by 30 seconds over the trailing group. Tadej Pogacar will get 6 bonus seconds, so we'll have to see how the GC shakes out because of that. I don't see Enric Mas with that top 10, however. And now, I guess Enric Mas was with us, but Santiago Buitrago still leads. Tadej back 6 seconds behind us, followed by Enric Mas, Julio Ciccone, and Gil Martin sitting in 5th. Mark Hirschi also jumps into the top 10, 8 minutes and 42 seconds behind. And that is going to take us to stage 17, a 192.9 kilometer mountain stage from Canazei to Sega Diala. And this looks like it is going to give us some problems. I can't even lie. That first climb, the Passo Valentina, I believe it's called, Passo San Valentino, is incredibly long, incredibly steep. And the Sega Diala, the finishing climb, looks about the same. It flattens out a little bit towards the top, but we're going to be lucky if we can stick with the top guys through there. This might be where Santiago Buitrago cracks. As you can see, his fitness down at 88%. It has been in free fall these last few stages. But as always, we're just going to give it our all and see if we can stick with the favorites. And we are here with 11.5K left to go. We have started the Sega Diala climb. Nothing too crazy over the Passo San Valentino, but now the pace has started to ratchet up immediately. There are only 10.5K left to go until the end of this climb. And right now, Santiago Buitrago looking like he is in a decent spot, but we're just going to have to stick with Tadej. I don't see him around here right now, which is good news for us, but there are still some pretty strong riders around. 83 is definitely going to be a little bit too high for the entirety of this climb, but 9K left and it flattens out towards the top. We're not going to be too far off of it. We're going to sit on 80. We're going to look around. There's Tadej. I do not see Enric Mas. There's Enric Mas. So all of the big hitters still here. 34 riders in the group. And it's surprisingly Ineos on the front, potentially looking to make a move for Tom Gloag, perhaps? Is he going to try and get back at us for letting him go in the off-season? As now Julio Ciccone takes a position towards the front. Piganzoli doing a good job of getting all of our riders in there. We're going to have Santiago drop behind Mark Hirschi as Davide Piganzoli is doing a great job, fantastic job keeping up with Balcamalama, Jay Vine, Davide Formolo, Timon Ahrensman. Some pretty good domestiques in the mix here. And I just feel like 83 is going to be a little bit too heavy for the rest of the way, especially with Santiago Buitrago a little bit out of his red bar. But it looks like he is recovering. But maybe not. It looks like we are on a pretty decent track here. We do come to the front Other domestiques giving up. And it's going to be Antonio Tiberi to take over from Davide Piganzoli right now. Piganzoli cracks. But I don't think we're going to go quite at 83. It looks like we are suffering a little bit. Antonio going to bump it down to 75 effort. Buitrago, we do want to try to attack with him if we can. And it looks like nobody's in a really good position to respond if we do attack right now, but we want to wait, desperately want to wait until it flattens out a little bit. Tiberi just doing a great job grinding right now. We're actually going to move him up to 79. As there we see Enric Mas working to get up to the front. We're going to go ahead and close him off with Antonio Tiberi. And Mark Hirschi is about to take over. And he's going to do that right now. We're going to pop the energy gel on Hirschi and Buitrago. They are both just about done. 2K left to go. Hirschi, we're losing Enric Mas. Oh no, Tade just in front of us. But it's going to be all on Santiago Buitrago now. Is we can't afford to lose this group, and it looks like we might just catch back up to Tade, but Enric Mas way up in front now. And it looks like, no, it looks like we're actually closing down. Can we stick with this group? It looks like they're going to just come in front of us, as Enric Mas does get ahead of us with a tiny little gap back to Marc Soler. But we do finish level with Tadej Pogacar, so it looks like we will lose the pink jersey, but we still have every chance of pulling it back in the coming stages. And there we can see George Bennett on top of the podium. He does get the stage win over Eddie Dunbar and Nelson Oliveira. But if we take a look at the general classification, Enric Mas does go in front, but only by 8 seconds. Back to Santiago Buitrago, Tade in third, 14 seconds back. So it's really all left to play for. And that is going to bring us to stage 18, a 228-kilometer hill stage from Rovereto to Stradella. And if I'm not incorrect here, this has the makings of a stage where we might be able to steal some time if we can get our front group over that last hill in the lead. It looks like mostly downhill to the finish. If we can get Santiago over with a little bit of a gap, we might be able to take maybe 10 seconds back from the rest of the group. We're going to give it a go. I don't know if it's the smart decision. We could just play it safe and hope our legs are better on the 2 mountain stages that remain, but I mean, with our chances looking less and less likely every stage, I think we have to attack and try and make the most of what we have. And we are here with just under 32k left to go. We have started the hills, and the pace is being pushed from the start. Connor Swift is trying to lead us through. It looks like the favorites are attacking immediately, and we're just gonna set ourselves to 89 and try and get over the top in one piece. It looks like a few riders already suffering pretty hard. Santiago Buitrago is one of them. The front group still has a minute 30. I think they're hoping to chase that back pretty quickly, but I don't see that happening before the last climb, as we do get a little bit of a respite on the downhill section. Santiago Buitrago almost back to full stamina. We're gonna set it up to 85. The goal was to push the pace through here, but it seems like everybody else is doing that for us. We're actually going to have to set the pace up to 87 with Connor Swift. And Santiago Buitrago still in a pretty decent spot. Nobody too threatening is making a move. It looks like there's a little bit of a wobble on Enric Mas, which we might be able to use that to our advantage as we come up to the top of the Castana climb. We're actually going to set our pace to 87. Hope we can drop some of these bigger named riders, as the front group now only has 30 seconds. And Connor Swift doing a wonderful job. We're just going to have to sit on, push the pace, and then attack with probably T-Berry, Buitrago, and Hirschi there on that final climb. And here with 11k left to go, we are just about to start the final climb, the Caneto Pavesi, as Enric Mas looks to preemptively attack. And we're not going to let him go. Connor Swift sat on 87. We're going to go ahead and set him up to 92, pop the energy gel on everybody. I hope that Enric Mas using that much stamina is really going to affect him up this final climb, as Connor Swift really putting the pressure down. And right here where it ramps up, we're going to attack with Antonio T-Berry and set Connor Swift to 94. And attack with Santiago Buitrago. Ben Healy can just kind of do his own thing as we launch our guys over the top. And we're going to have him follow T-Berry. T-Berry is going to set a blistering pace. We have a 16-second gap back to the group behind. This was exactly what we had wanted. It looks like Enric Mas is doing all the work himself. Antonio T-Berry going to start his sprint. And Santiago Buitrago going to start his with about 1k to go. Mark Hirschi also going to start his sprint. We're going to watch where Santiago comes in. But Mark Hirschi gets his second stage win of the race as Santiago Buitrago comes in with what looks to be a tiny gap back to Ben Healy, our own rider. So we're going to have a top four. But with Ben Healy coming in fourth, we have to see what that gap looks like back to Enric Mas. And there we see Mark Hirschi with the stage win, 8 seconds back to Santiago Buitrago. And as we can see, Ben Healy finished too close, so there is no time gap. And with the bonus seconds, I think Santi will only get 6. And if we take a look at the general classification, we do see we are still 2 seconds behind Enric Mas. Tadej Pogacar still sitting in third, 14 seconds behind. And this race just keeps getting tighter and tighter with 2 mountain stages left and a time trial. And we will go straight in to stage 19. A 178.4 kilometer mountain stage from Abbiategrasso to Alpe d'Huez. And this stage looks surprisingly doable. It's not as steep and not as long as some of the other final climbs. Santiago Buitrago, we know, is not in a great spot with his fitness, but after a rest day, his race day condition has bumped up to a +1. So he's still in it. We're only 2 seconds back, and I think this could be a stage where we look to stay with the group. I don't think this finish really suits him perfectly, and the finish on stage 20 looks like it could be somewhere where we could make up some time. And we are here with 10k left at the base of the final climb, the Alpe d'Huez, and we are pushing the pace with Jan Kristen. Everybody just got their last water bottle. It is a best case scenario for us. Santiago Buitrago in a great spot stamina wise. We're just going to keep pushing away here at the bottom on this low effort. And then once we get towards the top, we're going to ramp it up a little bit. I think our pace right now just a little bit too high. Connor Swift, you can do your own thing. Congratulations on getting the water bottles. You did a fantastic job. But now with 7k left to go, we are on guard for any attacks. UAE trying to come to the front. That means we're going to have to up our effort a little bit. We don't want Tadej to get any ideas. Jan Kristen also on a +3 day, which is terrific news for our entire team, as he is just able to keep up with this effort no problem as we crank it up to 82. Buitrago still with a very healthy amount of stamina. It does look like it gets a little steeper up there towards the end, and I don't know if that's going to be a good thing for us in particular. But Jan Kristen working incredibly hard right now, being able to just keep up a decent pace for what seems like kilometer after kilometer. He is just there. He never goes away. I love this young rider. Still 3.5k left to go. We're going to hold on to our energy gels for now. We're going to bump it up to 87. And with 3k left to go, we're going to start the energy gel on Jan Kristen. We're going to wait a little bit for T-Berry. And then a little after that, maybe 2.5k to go, we're going to pop the energy gel on Santiago Buitrago. Jan Kristen going to move up his effort just a little bit more. And it's going to be T-Berry's time to take over now. Jan Kristen is done as Tadej Pogacar attacks. No, he just sits there with Antonio T-Berry, which is probably good news for us, as now Santiago Buitrago, his energy gel pops, and it might be time to look for a sprint here, as Tadej Pogacar starts his, and I think he's going to be able to finish well ahead of us, as he takes second place on the stage, and there is going to be quite a gap back, and it looks like Enric Mas is even going to come around. He will just beat us on the line, but 6th place for Santiago Buitrago means we are still in it going into a mountain stage on stage 20 that looks way more suited to us. And there is Eddie Dunbar on the top of the podium, followed by Tadej Pogacar, who will take 19 seconds out of Marc Soler and Laurens de Plus, but we got a gap to them. We are 5 seconds behind them, tied with Enric Mas, which will push us down to 3rd place in the GC. We are 18 seconds behind Tadej Pogacar, 2 seconds behind Enric Mas, but about a minute ahead of Giulio Ciccone. So maybe we turn our attentions from the pink jersey into a podium. And here is stage 20, the final mountain stage of the Giro D'Italia, a 165.2 kilometer route from Verbania to Maresimo. And that giant climb is in the middle of the stage, which might play into our hands, as afterwards we have 2 shorter, flatter climbs that look more suited to Santiago Buitrago and the way we like to attack. So regardless of what happens, we might be in for a bad day for Santiago Buitrago when it's all said and done, but we are definitely going to attack and going to try and win this stage. And we are here with 35.5 kilometers to go at the bottom of the Passo dello Spluga, the second to last climb, and we are going to look to push the pace here. It has been a really, really high pressure day. UAE just absolutely destroyed everybody on that first climb. We're going to look to keep it going and maybe get Mark Hirschi and Santiago Buitrago over the top first here. This is not a particularly steep climb, which means we can push the pace a little harder than we would on these climbs from previous stages. And if we take a look back, Santiago Buitrago still in a good spot. Jan Kristen, the Swiss Army knife, can do a little bit of everything, is getting us up this climb in short order. And it looks like, again, none of the favorites. Tadej a little far back. We're actually going to go ahead and push our pace up to 87 for this little cobbled section. It looks like a little gravel bit, but that is good news if Tadej's that far back. Enric Mas also sitting off the wheel. Could we, oh, didn't like that camera angle. Could we push the pace a little more? We've got 3K to go to the top. We're running our red bars down on almost all of our riders, but not at a insanely high rate. We're going to move it up to 89, use some of those hill stats that we've got. And Antonio T-Berry might be the casualty here, where we can set him just to follow on 70 and then do his own thing. Mark Hirschi's going to go ahead and attack with Santiago Buitrago on his wheel. And we're going to set him now to 85, 80, 89. Let's go 89 over the climb. Santiago Buitrago supposed to be sitting on his wheel. He's a little far off now, as we can sit on 75 for this little descent. We have a 24-second gap back to the group behind. And we are here with 8.5K left to go. We have just been caught by the group behind right before the start of the Mattesimo climb, and they would have had to use a ton of energy just to catch up to us. So we are, in theory, sitting in a pretty decent spot right now. Santiago Buitrago on Mark Hirschi's wheel, Tadej Pogacar, Enric Mas right there. We're not going to use our energy too soon. We should have the advantage when it comes to our yellow bars. But Mark Hirschi seemingly having a tough time keeping up. We're going to have to move it up to 87 just to try and get around these riders. As we do pass Tadej there on the left, Enric Mas able to keep up with this. Giulio Ciccone attacks. That is not ideal, but we can't attack from this far back. We're just going to have to set our pace and hope we do have more stamina than he does. We're actually going to set it to 85 with 4K left to go. Mark Hirschi's going to pop his energy gel. We're going to use it to try and get Santiago up and around. Still a 35-second gap up to Giulio Ciccone right now, as Hirschi going to move up to 89. And it's all on Santiago Buitrago by himself now. Enric Mas just in front there, 2.5K left to go. Mas really using the rest of his stamina, as we can't afford to do that when we don't want to run out before the line, but it looks like that's going to be the case. The move might have been a little mistimed. I don't know what we could have done differently. Buitrago not in the best spot today, but we are going to lose some time to our three biggest rivals, as there's still 600 meters left, all three in front of us, and this is a very disappointing way to end the Giro D'Italia proper, with Giulio Ciccone taking stage 20, Tadej in 6th, Enric Mas in 2nd, didn't see him up there, but Santiago Buitrago coming across the line in 8th place. And there we see Giulio Ciccone on the top of the podium, followed by Enric Mas 22 seconds behind, Tadej 55 seconds behind, and Santiago Buitrago unfortunately 1 minute 48 seconds back. And if we take a look at the GC, we can see we have fallen to 4th place before the final time trial. Enric Mas currently leads by 23 seconds over Tadej Pogacar, and 34 seconds back to Giulio Ciccone. And that will bring us to the final stage, stage 21, a 30-kilometer time trial from Senago to Milano. And Santiago Buitrago, unfortunately, not very good at time trials, but neither is Giulio Ciccone. Marc Soler is not the best at them either, so we do still have a shot, albeit an outside chance, of coming in 3rd, but we're not really known for showing time trials on this channel. But I think this is a special occasion, our first Grand Tour, Santiago Buitrago outperforming our wildest expectations, so we're going to give him the send-off that he deserves. And here we are with Santiago Buitrago at the starting line of the finishing time trial here, just outside of Milan. We're going to set his pace down to 80, move the speed up to 2 times, and see if we can bring him home in a decent finishing position. Looks like 80 is going to be a little bit too high. We're losing yellow at a bit too high of a rate. I do want to try and negative split this a little bit. You know, I don't expect anything crazy from him, but if we play this just right, we might be able to sneak past Giulio Ciccone or Enric Mas. Well, not Giulio Ciccone, he's in the lead. Enric Mas, definitely not Tadej Pogacar, who has to be hands-on favorite to win this. We come across the first time check in 65th place. Not encouraging so far. We're a minute and 9 down off of Pipo Ganna's time, but it's Pipo Ganna, so we were never going to catch him. And after the second time trial, we're going to look to increase our effort again, but maybe now would be a good time to bump it up to 77. Mark Hirschi just about done, finishing 25th. Right now, Connor Swift is our best, sitting in 12th place for the stage, as we are just about to cross the second time check, and we are 2 minutes 24 seconds behind, so we will go ahead and up that effort and try and burn out at the proper time. We still have 5.5K to go. Our yellow bar getting dangerously close to the little finishing line bar there. So we come around this right-hander with 3K to go, and the finishing line is about to be in sight. After this left-hander, we're going to set it to 99, let him hit it to the line, and Santiago Buitrago is going to finish 65th place, 3 minutes and 16 seconds behind Filippo Ganna. And here we can see the final position of the GC category in the Giro D'Italia. We do slip to 5th place, 3 minutes and 4 seconds behind Tadej Pogacar. It doesn't signify how close this was. I am sure glad we didn't have the pink jersey coming into this time trial, though. That would have been soul-crushing. But Tadej does end up winning the Giro D'Italia by 13 seconds over Enric Mas. The points category goes to Jasper Philipsen, never in doubt. The mountain category, Eddie Dunbar, 382 points, just a dominating performance. That's a rider we could be looking to sign in the future. But in the young rider category, we do get the win with Santiago Buitrago, and second place with Antonio Tiberi, 17 minutes and 46 seconds behind Santiago Buitrago. That shows just how good he was for this Grand Tour. And in the team category, Team Sky does finish first place, 7 minutes and 23 seconds ahead of Ineos Grenadiers. And that is going to bring to an end an action-packed Giro d'Italia, where we were way more into it than we thought we would be. Santiago Buitrago ending off on a low note, but I don't want that to be the memory from this tour. We came in hoping a top 5 would have been possible. We got to fight for the pink jersey every step of the way, just until the last couple of stages, and we had a young rider really prove that he could be one for the future. He has not reached his potential yet, so Santiago Buitrago still can get better, and that's a scary thought for the rest of the GC candidates. But be sure to tune in for the next episode when we will be racing the Dauphiné and the Tour de Suisse. We'll take some some stages from both, and we will be racing all of our national championships. We'll pick out the best ones, show you those before we get ready for our first Tour de France, which we will be trying to win with Max Poole. I know a lot of you have been saying that you want to see a British rider try and win the Tour, and that's exactly what we're going to do this year and next year, hopefully if Simon Yates is available, or if Geraint Thomas can keep up his fitness and not lose too many attributes. But for now, I just wanted to say thank you, and I will see you later.